Welcome back in. This is Right Now. It, of course, is Thursday, May 28th. The Larry Millete murder trial resumed this week after a break that we saw no action on Friday and Monday due to the holiday. But we, of course, have seen things pick up and pick up quickly. An unraveling marriage that ended in murder. That's what prosecutors say happened to Maya Millete. Her husband, Larry, of course, on trial. And today, Chula Vista police were back on the stand. That was yesterday, I should say, as well as Maya's brother with bombshell testimony. Our Jenny Day was inside of the courthouse, and she has the very latest.
Maya's brother, J.P. Tabalanza, just testified that his former brother-in-law reached out upset about Maya's marital affair, and he says Larry asked him if he knew anyone who could get the other guy. He says he interpreted it to kill the man Maya was having an affair with. He says he told Larry it is not worth it. He says this happened around Christmas of 2020. Again, Maya disappeared in January of 2021. Now, the rest of today's testimony all centered on emails, search history, and those spells that police say Larry purchased, all in an effort to control his wife, who wanted a divorce. The Millete murder trial continued Wednesday with Chula Vista police showing what their search results uncovered. They say emails from Larry found on a laptop over a 4-month span leading up to Maya's disappearance include love spells that work, black magic spells, punisher spells, emergency spells, hexes for revenge, and subliminal wife training. Also searches that include incapacitate and can you make her sick so she has to depend on us for care. The Chula Vista Police Department also showed Larry had been keeping a log of Maya's whereabouts, documenting when she went to Walmart, when she went to lunch. Emails between Larry and Maya that consistently went back and forth for months stopped suddenly January 7th, 2021. 2 weeks later, police say attempts were made to log in and change Maya's Facebook password. The detective also testified about photos on the computer, screenshots of Maya's social media account, and screenshots of Jamie Laird's, the man Maya was having an affair with. The defense continuing to suggest police got tunnel vision and did not thoroughly investigate him. He and his now ex-wife are still set to testify during trial. More police body camera footage was also played showing the initial search of their vehicles after Maya's sister reported her missing. Again, prosecutors allege Maya was killed January 7th. The first search was done January 10th. The officer testifying Larry's Lexus was exceptionally clean. Maya's Jeep also had a bag in the back seat that contained a hatchet, hammer, mallet, knife, gloves, and duct tape. All that was said is these could be tools for off-roading. The next witness was Larry's boss, who went over his time card on the days in question, saying Larry took unplanned time off the day after prosecutors say Maya was killed. Back now to Maya's brother, who just stepped off the stand. He says Larry brought up this alleged murder for hire plot a second time, this time on New Year's Day of 2021. Again, Maya went missing 1 week later. The defense pointed to the fact that Larry only ever told him that he wanted to repair the marriage and keep his family together. I'll tell you, these families have been close for 20 years, so court is tense. Cross-examination continues tomorrow. Reporting in Chula Vista, Jenny Day, News 8.
All right, and you will see that as we jump back in, Jenny Day, who, of course, will be on at 10:30 here for Around San Diego, so don't go anywhere here after we end the show. Very busy. Because you've also been one of our lead correspondents here when it comes to the Larry Millete murder trial. Again, a trial in which there are no cameras allowed in the courtroom, which requires our reporters to take copious notes about a lot of the testimony that we have going on. So let's go back to yesterday. Jenny, we saw your story. Yeah. What stood out to you that maybe you weren't able to fit into your package about maybe Maya's brother's testimony or what we heard from law enforcement?
I mean, that was the big news of the day because the morning started again. I mean, all of it is incredibly compelling. And again, I'm sitting maybe 3 to 5 feet away from Larry every single day in the front row of this courtroom. Again, he stands at attention to the jurors every time they come and go from the courtroom. He's not wearing a mask like we've seen in previous court hearings, but Yeah, JP Tabalanza's testimony yesterday, and then again is continuing today, was really powerful. Again, these families have been close for 20 years, and so he testified that Larry confided in him that he was incredibly upset about Maya's affair. He had been tracking her movements. Again, we've reported that the control, according to prosecutors, had continued just to get more and more intense. And so he had tracked her and found Maya and this Jamie Laird in a truck. And that's when he opened up to Maya's brother and said he, essentially offered thousands of dollars for him to, again, all according to JP, but Maya's brother, that to essentially plan out a murder for hire plot. And he said, this is not worth it. Seems like no one really took him seriously, just like he was upset.
And when you say no one, because it wasn't just him that we heard Larry speak to at that same party earlier in the trial, it was Maya's father who was on the stand talking about him motioning to a gun that was in his pocket and all that. So
saying he wanted to kill someone.
Yeah, exactly. Saying he wanted to kill someone. So it was one of those things when I was going over your notes, and Chris, you and I had this conversation off camera.
Yeah.
We kind of just had like an aha moment, and we were like, oh, this is the same party that we're hearing this from.
Yes.
So you have two different accounts from two different family members of separate interactions talking about whether that's a motive perhaps, but certainly that Larry was struggling, and a lot of it had to do with the situation that we find ourselves in.
I know. It's just been really heavy and fascinating to see like the judicial process play out. But yeah, I mean, there has just been really just gripping testimony. We're expected, it sounds like it's just going to be Maya's family on the stand today. Again, an incredibly close family. And, one thing you had asked, like specifically that I did not include, Maya, it's, again, the family is very close, but it sounds like they were, they didn't share a whole lot when it came to private matters. And so I guess JP even kind of went to her saying, hey, your husband's coming to me upset about your affair. And she just literally, his words were stay out, that Maya said for him to just stay out of her marriage. And so I think the defense is kind of pointing to that too, that, she, did not really take the help from the family essentially, but it's a devastating.
That was supported by Mari Chris's testimony too.
Yeah.
That's what they said too. They said that when they're going on all of these trips together, whether it's for New Year's, the goal is specifically to make memories.
Yes.
So when it came to we're looking back here and we're starting to see the timeline of the deterioration of their relationship go further back as more evidence comes out. We remember the first week, a lot of the stuff that we were seeing was dating back to a month before Maya's disappearance. Now we're seeing evidence in June of 2020, and I think there was maybe May of 2020 in here. I'm not entirely sure, but summer of 2020. So now we're looking at this timeline of this of the downfall be 6 to 7 months. So to see when they were starting to have these conversations shows that this is not something they talk about a whole lot. And when they finally start to break that wall down and have some sort of conversation, whether that's how do we split up money for a retainer for a divorce attorney and all that, that's how you know that it's getting to a serious point.
Right. Because when she did bring it to her siblings, which she did do, according to prosecutors, during that New Year's trip to Glamis, she was confident. She had made up her mind. Again, this is the New Year's trip, and Maya went missing January 7th of 2021. And so prosecutors say that she was just confident that she wanted a divorce, that she was just finally sharing with the family that this is what is happening, not what should I do next, woe is me. She said, I've made up my mind. What we just played was from yesterday, Wednesday, but on Tuesday, when court resumed, they also shared a letter that she had written to Larry, calling the relationship unhealthy and toxic. She, in a handwritten letter that you can see on CBS8.com, let me find my peace. I cannot find it with you. a lot of the search history, a lot of the spell casting stuff came out yesterday too, where prosecutors say Larry actually paid money to these psychics, and they kind of got increasingly more violent. First started with getting Maya to fall back in love with him, and then it kind of turned to how can I, incapacitate her so that she needs the kids and I to care for her. You could just see that kind of growing desperation. There were search histories. Again, the defense is pointing to the fact that we don't know who made these searches. It was on a family computer in the daughter's bedroom, but it says, these searches include how to mentally torture someone. Can you track an iPhone if it's on airplane mode? Again, though, the defense continues to point that there was no evidence, there's been no evidence that there even was a murder.
Right.
There was no blood in the home. We kind of brushed over this, but in the back of Maya's Jeep yesterday, I saw with my own eyes the police body cam video. There was a bag that had a duct tape, gloves, a mallet, a hammer, and all these things. And really, the only thing that came up in court was that these could be tools for off-roading. Mm-hmm. The officer who testified yesterday also said that Lexus SUV we've seen so much of, Larry's Lexus, she said it was impeccably clean because, again, Maya went missing January 7th of 2021. The first search of the home did not happen until January 10th.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about the defense, because one of not only is the tools for off-roading one of the holes that they're trying to poke in the prosecution's case, but also the idea that there was dust on them. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
Because I just have the note. I don't know how that went down. I was wondering if there's some more context around that.
It's so that's what we put in our notes is kind of all you get. There's not, I think that it's, again, such an interesting process just on the outside, like the judicial part of it. But it seems like they almost can't, they just need to present the facts and then let the jurors determine that in their own way. But yes, the officer did testify that on top of this bag that had all those tools in it, again, in Maya's Jeep, that could be used for off-roading, did have a layer of dust on it. And so the defense did point that out. Does that prove that it hadn't been used for a while? Does that prove that it was fresh dust? But nothing, it's just for the jurors to interpret.
Okay. I wanted to go back, though, to something you just refreshed my memory. I believe it was either Tuesday or it may have been yesterday, the discovery of a liquid in one of the vehicles that was tested for blood. Jack and I had a question.
Yes.
They said that the result required further confirmation. Do we know if there was ever further testing? Right. Was that asked in the courtroom, or was that just asked amongst reporters?
It was not addressed, and I can only hope that question gets answered, because I've even followed up with Chula Vista Police. I have followed up with the district attorney's office saying, hey, I have some unanswered questions from what came out today. And unfortunately, they are not able to elaborate. But yes, they said that luminol is a product that can be used to detect the presence of blood, even if there has been an effort to clean something up. Because they said that there was a small speck, even, if you will, and then it looked like some kind of liquid had been smeared on the side of the vehicle, and that was tested, and the results were not shared in court. All it said was that further testing needs to happen, and so I feel the same, that was not answered in court.
We still do not have an answer for that. The other thing, too, that real quickly we'll get to, as for Maya's brother, is it right to sort of infer from a lot of the back and forth, both the prosecution and the defense, that he was the closest sibling to Larry on Maya's side?
Absolutely.
And is that how did his testimony maybe compare to Mari Chris's, where obviously there was a lot of emotion with Mari Chris? Was he maybe a little bit more objective in his testimony? How would you describe his demeanor about everything?
Well, I will say that, because the defense really, they drilled into that and said, you have trusted this man for 20 years. You have been brother-in-laws for decades. You trusted him with your nieces and nephew, and, that you guys had a good relationship. You've taken many family trips together. And he said, yes, we have been close. And then he said, but again, all very light, just family stuff, trips, all happy, like you said, making memories. And then just about 6 months prior to her disappearing, he said that Larry started calling him about 3 times a week even, just really desperate for him to help save his marriage. And so they were close. And I think it was one surprising part too. The defense attorney said, you have always thought that he was genuine. Like you've always sincerely like thought he was like genuine. And he said most of the time. And so, it just kind of, that's one thing that did come up yesterday, that it was not a confident yes always.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, they have been close. You can tell. I mean, they are sitting just a few feet away from each other, and he is sharing this in open court against his brother-in-law.
Wow. One more question. We know you got around San Diego, so we want to make sure you're able to get out of here in time and get going. But one of the things that we talked about yesterday from Tuesday's proceedings was a brief back and forth that they had with no jury present about some of what we might see going forward. I want confirmation and maybe to see if there's an update on this. We were told in your notes that the prosecution had intended to call Larry's father up to the stand and that there were current negotiations as to whether or not Larry's parents may be permitted to sit in after the testimony. Of course, we remember that instance where Mari Chris was saying that Larry's father had been intimidating her from outside the courtroom. A bailiff had to go out. Do we have a confirmation on that or an update or both?
So they have not, the court is not giving us a list of the upcoming witnesses. Again, we have gone through maybe 10 witness testimonies at this point, and they still think that this trial is going to last 3 months. So there could be a whole lot more to come. And again, I hope that they get into more expert testimony where they answer some of these questions. But yes, I do believe that Larry's father for sure, and very likely his mother as well, will testify. That's why they are not allowed in the courtroom. I think a lot of people are waiting to hear from Jamie Laird. That's the man that Maya was having an affair with. Also, Jamie Laird's now ex-wife is also expected to testify because, again, this came out yesterday that Larry had a lot of screenshots of their social media accounts, even like their mothers. And so,
the Laird's mothers?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. And so like a lot of digging, it seems like, according to Chula Vista Police, had been done. And again, the defense is even suggesting him as an alternate suspect, saying that he was not thoroughly investigated. But I think that will be really powerful testimony. So much came out yesterday with Maya's brother that I wasn't able to share. It's so hard to include everything, but Maya's boss also testified that again, she went missing in January, and he reported in November that her performance at work had really declined, and she just wasn't being herself.
They started to kind of change their schedule around a little bit to accommodate.
Yes, and she was really, again, this is all during COVID too, so she had really expressed concerns about childcare, but she did open up to him and say, hey, I'm going through a separation, but yeah, that came out yesterday as well.
It's a handful, but you know what? The fact that we know what you're talking about, and it's still stuff we didn't get to, is a testament to how great of notes that you and Kelly are taking here. Kind, so it really is. It's our gospel when it comes to covering this. So we appreciate the detail and the care in which you guys are putting it into those notes. So we appreciate it.
We do. All right, Jenny, thank you so much. That's going to do it for us here on the Larry Millete trial.